Mr. Manji, you mentioned the GDPR. Let me just say privacy, as we know it, as the world knows it today, primarily is something the U.S. has led the way in creating privacy law. And then when you see this European style privacy that is GDPR, you know that Europe doesn't have the most innovative and dynamic economy, and that the major players in this market are going to be U.S. companies, and needing to have a privacy standard, one set of rules for the entire ecosystem is the reason I've reintroduced the Browser Act today, so that we can do that. Let me just touching on content for a second, and we all, I think, have hoped that you would have a diversity of opinion in your platforms, and that it would be a town square. And I know that Facebook has a 27-page memo on censorship. And we would hope that while you are rooting out violence and terrorist propaganda and keeping that off your pages, that you also are having your reviewers and your community that sets those standards, and those that live and work there in California aware that free speech requires that they be respectful of speech with which they do not agree. And we would hope that you all would go back to California focused on exercising that with that respect to the law and respect to individuals. I've got a few questions. Mr. Potts, should Facebook promote spirited debate on all sides of the political spectrum? And we'll do these as yes or no.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, we allow spirited debate on all sides.
Mr. Manji, same question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Potts, should Facebook allow ads urging that we save sea turtles or baby seals?
I believe that would be fine.
Okay. Mr. Manji, should Twitter allow ads that denounce Planned Parenthood for selling baby body parts?
Ma'am, thank you for that question, and I'd like to again apologize for you.
Yeah.
Every ad is judged
Yes
within
or no
context,
is good.
and we made a mistake on your ad, and I apologize.
Okay. Mr. Manji, should Twitter allow ads from Starbucks and Patagonia?
If they follow our terms of service.
And Mr. Potts, should Facebook allow ads from Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby?
If they follow our ads policies.
Okay. And who sets those policies?
There are teammates of mine. We have separate teams that work on ads policies.
Are they subjective?
They are meant to be objective, Senator.
They're meant to be objective. Do people
They
bring
are-
their
I-
attitudes to work with them? Their
I-
political attitudes to work with them?
I was incorrect in my statement. They are objective, and we try to strive for
Okay,
people not to
Mr.
bring
Manji,
that.
should Twitter equally promote Democrats and Republicans in search rankings?
Yes, and we strive to.
Mr. Potts, same question.
I'm sorry, Senator.
Should you equally promote Democrats and Republicans in the search rankings? Okay.
Yes, Senator.
And Mr. Potts, should Facebook equally promote articles from all news sources, whether they're from the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post?
For those two, yes, Senator.
Okay. We've got a presidential year coming up in 2020, so Mr. Manji, please tell me what Twitter is doing to prepare its platform for censorship-free debate.
Thank you so much, Senator. People come to Twitter to figure out what's going on in the world, and never is that more important than during elections. We spent a great amount of time in the lead up to the midterm elections, which were the most tweeted about midterm elections in history. We dramatically improved our ability to find efforts at disinformation, improved our partnerships with all the major parties, with the government and with NGOs to figure out vectors of threats, and we had what we believe was an incredibly clean election. And as the world turns, there are additional elections in the EU, in Japan, in India, in Israel yesterday. And we're going to continue to try to improve our systems, to find disinformation, to make sure that there's greater context about who's speaking.
Now, I know Facebook has hired a news director. Have you all hired a news director?
We are structured differently than Facebook. We do, as a platform, we are running towards news and work with news publishers of all sorts to make sure that they can get their products out on our platform.
Okay, and Mr. Potts, Facebook's plan, their strategy for 2020?
Thank you, Senator. We've hired over 30,000 people to focus on safety and security. We've made significant investments in what we call our election integrity. We have full-time standing teams that are now focused on many of the elections going on in the world, whether it be the EU, India, Israel, as we mentioned yesterday, but definitely focused on 2020 within the United States to ensure that we are out in front to prevent any abuse that could occur on the platform.
Thank you.